嘛。
哦，就是昨天那风开了，风就起来了，太吓人了。
啊，到哪儿了？
Breaking news, a plane crashed into Beijing's tallest building, the China Zun. This is a two-seater plane made in China called Sunward SA Aurora, and it's under the registration of B-12PP. It hit the east side of the building, people were evacuated, and currently we don't know what the case of injury or death may be, but Beijing is always under a strict no-fly zone for civilian drones and unauthorized aircrafts, and people are now calling this China's version of 9/11. The pilot's name is Lin Junhua, a member of an aviation school called Dongxi Shuangyue General Aviation. And there's no info yet as to who the pilot is, what he does, or she does. And the pilot conducted a solo flight in the local airspace, which took off from Shifusi Airport around 5:30 local time, and in about 10 minutes, it was prepared to return for landing. While joining the westbound route for runway 18, the aircraft did not join the approach and departure normally, but rather deviated from the local airspace and continued flying towards Beijing at a constant heading of 270 degrees. And we can see this on the flight radar data that the local ADS-B monitor can detect the aircraft near the East Fifth Ring Road, but no subsequent signal. So it seems like the flight, before it crashed into the building, turned off the transponder, and follow-up attempts apparently were unable to basically reach the pilot. And we see here this graph, which is quite interesting because based on FR24's original data, B-12PP is suspected to have turned off its transponder before making a sharp turn to hit the east side of the building, because you got to remember it was flying southwest, and then in order to go up north, it had to make a sharp turn and then also hit the building from the east side, which means again another turn. So now, some people were suggesting that the actual target of this aircraft was aiming at Zhongnan High Compound, which is the headquarters of the CCP. But again, this is just a speculation. There's no evidence to actually suggest that, although the distance between these two targets are just like 2-3 miles. But the area around which the building is situated is called CBD, Central Business District. That's where Beijing's top financial and political buildings are. So it's a sensitive zone for many reasons, and that makes this not a simple crash. This is right before the July 1st anniversary of the founding of the CCP celebration, and it happened in central Beijing. Supposedly, this is the tightly controlled political financial center in China, so the signal is very clear because the CCP is going to take these cases very seriously. I don't doubt that there's possibility that this was a man-made case to send a message to the leadership somehow. But the question is, how did the plane manage to fly 25 minutes off course and there's no interception? Like, that's beyond me. Is like the Chinese airspace there also made in Timu? Or are there no like Air Force capable of tracking down a slow plane? So a lot of questions, but you got to remember, because Beijing is this sensitive area, people had the audacity to do this. Whether they were doing this because they just wanted to end it all, or to take some people with them, or that they were just on a mission because someone told them to do this, either way, nobody responded to it. So I'm leaning more towards a case of indiscriminate rampage, as they would with a car on the street just going into a crowd of people, this time just by somebody who is richer, because the flight schools are not cheap. Maybe they just wanted to end their lives and to end it all. But again, because it's in Beijing, the political messaging is so clear. It's the tallest building in Beijing. It's called Zun, China Zun. And Zun in Chinese literally means authority. And in the case of Xi's nickname, he's often called Yizun, which means the first authority or the ultimate authority. So a plane crashed into the authority. Like, that's crazy. You can call it Chinese superstition or whatever the case may be, but that's some wild messaging, even without considering the pilot's motive. Again, where's all the possible protection for Beijing and the leadership? Now, what if the Americans can fly airplanes into their airspace? Like, there's no response? Why didn't they do anything? And there's some procedural flaw that obviously is preventing the actions of the defense force. But so far, all the footage that we have on this seems to have been slowly, bits by bit, scrubbed off of Chinese social media. You can't really search for this particular event on Weibo either. Now, this school, the Dongxi Shuangyue General Aviation School, is a business part of Oriental Fashion Company. Oriental Fashion originally started as a driving school, and it was China's first driving training company. And so this is not, I don't think the school in itself is somehow related to this. And prior flight data actually shows the plane making routinely similar flights to the very east part outside of Beijing. So it doesn't seem like that the other people who were piloting the airplane is somehow related to this. And you actually see this plane in some of their advertisements and commercials. And I don't think the company. And then just one more point on the behavior of the plane, right? Because even if we consider the normal traffic control, the plane would have made some sharp maneuvers. And it was actually at the time, the east side of the building was being used as the glide path for the capital airport's approaches. So the behavior of the airplane would have caught at least, I would say, 1 to 2 flight control decks' attention, and it just somehow never made it to the point where they stopped or intercepted the plane. It's just, I just don't get it. Now, there's some stuff that might not be possible in this case, right? For example, first one will be a lost flight path. Could the pilot have forgot the map, or the GPS stopped working, or he got lost? Is that possible? Well, look, it's like, you know how you can see the skyline of New York City from far, far away? It's that same concept with Beijing. You can see the buildings there. You can see the CBD area. You can see the China Zun Tower. It's tall enough to stretch into the clouds. So from the perspective of a pilot, it's impossible to not see where the cluster of buildings would be. Especially if you are in a flight school near the capital, you would know about all of the things that is around you, right? Because you've been flying there for a while. Like, I don't think this guy's for his first time flying. Another point might be the visibility thing. Like, was there low visibility? From the videos, it doesn't seem like it. It seems like the sun hasn't set. It's cloudy in the sky, but that seems pretty high up in the altitudes. And it also seems like that this was before sundown, right? So I don't think light or visibility is the issue. And then also the second point may be that what if the pilot forgot about autopilot regulations or whatever the case may be? Maybe there was something wrong with the plane, or that there wasn't enough time to determine the flight path was deviating from the original route. Well, look, the guy was flying, or maybe the girl was flying for 25 minutes. He had plenty of time to adjust. He didn't. So that's, again, not the case. And then there's also no evidence of mechanical malfunction, because the flight path shows that the plane was going at full speed, and the altitude did not change much compared to the speed of the plane. So it doesn't look like that it was somehow deviating from normal mechanical speeds or anything that caused an onboard mechanical failure, which rules out aircraft issues again. Now, if there wasn't enough fuel or something with the pitch angle, the plane should make an emergency landing. But rather than doing that, the plane just kept going into the city, which there was no attempt at trying to turn things around, which again goes opposite of what you would do in a case of a mechanical emergency or onboard emergency. All right, that's what we have so far about this topic. It's still developing, so if there's any follow-up important information, we'll have that for you as well. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.